Welcome to the show.
Great to be here.
Let's begin.
Let's go.
Welcome to today's deep dive. Our mission today is to explore this truly fascinating paradox that honestly you see everywhere once you start looking for it.
Oh, absolutely. It is everywhere.
Right. It's this fundamental question. Why do smart people become poor? Like, why do highly educated people struggle financially their entire lives?
Yeah, it's a paradox that catches so many people off guard.
Totally. So we're going to analyze this by looking really closely at the source material from Robert Kiyosaki's classic Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And we're focusing specifically on contrasting the financial perspectives of these two very different father figures. We really want to extract the rules of money that, well, they just don't teach you in school.
Right, because you're looking at individuals who have done literally everything society asked of them. Good grades, good schools. Yet the financial results just do not align with their actual intellectual capabilities.
Yeah, I like to think about it this way. Imagine you're handed the keys to, like, a multi-million-dollar state-of-the-art sports car.
Okay, I'm picturing it.
It's got this massive V12 engine, the absolute best aerodynamics, full tank of gas. I mean, you are entirely equipped to win the race.
Right.
But then you turn on the navigation system, and it is permanently programmed to just drive you in a continuous, endless circle around the exact same city block.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
The engine is roaring, you're burning fuel, putting in tremendous effort, but you are literally going nowhere.
Exactly. All that raw horsepower is just completely neutralized by a faulty operating system.
That's the exact financial reality for so many highly educated professionals today. I mean, we all know them, the doctors, the lawyers, straight-A students.
The ones making six-figure salaries.
Right. They pull in huge salaries, they're incredibly disciplined, yet somehow they're still living paycheck to paycheck, completely stressed out.
Yeah, it's wild. And when you step back, the root of the problem clearly isn't the size of the paycheck.
No, not at all. Or a lack of work ethic, right?
Right. The sources suggest it's the foundational financial programming behind their decisions. We really have to examine the psychological software running in the background before we even look at a single bank account. And the source material sets up this contrast so brilliantly by presenting this tale of two dads. They represent two entirely different paradigms of the world.
So let's get into that. First, you have the poor dad.
Right. And this figure was highly educated. We are talking about someone who finished his undergrad in, like, less than 2 years.
Which is insane.
It really is. And he went on to earn a PhD from these prestigious institutions. Stanford, Chicago, Northwestern.
A real academic powerhouse.
Exactly. He was a dedicated government worker who deeply valued job security, a stable pension, and good benefits. But his core foundational belief about wealth was that traditional adage, the love of money is the root of all evil.
Right. So he represents the absolute pinnacle of the industrial education system. He is the model of what schools tell us we should strive to become. But then, on the complete opposite end of the spectrum, the sources introduce the rich dad. And this figure, he didn't even finish the 8th grade.
Oh, wow, really?
Yeah. He was a self-made capitalist, an entrepreneur who spent his whole life building this empire of restaurants and warehouses. And his core belief literally flipped that traditional adage on its head.
How so?
He believed the lack of money is the root of all evil.
That's such a massive shift. And that divergence in worldview, it trickles down into every micro decision they make, especially in how they react to everyday financial obstacles.
Yeah, like when they want to buy something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
When the highly educated poor dad encountered something he couldn't afford, his default response was this definitive statement. He would just say, I can't afford it.
Right.
But when the rich dad faced the exact same obstacle, he strictly forbade those words. I mean, he wouldn't let his kids say it.
Yeah.
Insisted on reframing it as a question, how can I afford it?
The mechanics of that shift are actually profound. I mean, making a declarative statement like, I can't afford it, is basically like hitting the emergency stop button on a mental treadmill.
Oh, that's a great way to put it.
Right. The second you say it, the machine just shuts down, the loop is closed, and your brain is allowed to go to sleep. You've absolved yourself of the responsibility to solve the problem.
Yes.
But asking, how can I afford it? That cranks up the incline. It forces the prefrontal cortex to engage, to wake up, and to actually start exercising to find a solution.
That's exactly it. The sources emphasize that the brain is the most powerful computer in the world. And like any muscle, it atrophies if it isn't used.
So true.
Now, the rich dad wasn't advocating for consumerism, right? He wasn't saying you should try to buy every single luxury you desire just because you want it.
Right, he wasn't saying go into crazy debt for a TV.
Exactly. He was advocating for mental exercise. He viewed automatically saying, I can't afford it, as a massive symptom of mental laziness.
Which makes sense.
Yeah, and shifting from a definitive statement to an open-ended question forces you to transition from being this passive victim of your financial circumstances to an active participant. You start building your financial intelligence.
And if that mental software shuts down when we just accept our financial limitations, we really have to look at what happens when these individuals actually enter the workforce. Because this mindset gap directly dictates how people react the very second they get their first paycheck. And it leads highly educated people straight into life's most common emotional trap.
The rat race.
The rat race.
Yeah, it's the defining cycle of the modern middle class. You wake up, you go to work, you pay your bills, and you repeat the process until retirement.
Sounds exhausting.
It is. And the text isolates two specific human emotions that drive this entire cycle: fear and desire. Some call it fear and greed.
Right. So the fear of not having money is what initially wakes you up and pushes you out the door to go to work in the morning.
Yep.
It forces you to seek the security of a paycheck, but then once that money actually hits your account, desire kicks in.
Oh, yeah. You see the new car.
Exactly. The new car, the upgraded apartment, the expensive vacation. So you spend the money to satisfy that desire, the account drains, and boom, the fear comes rushing right back.
It's a vicious cycle. And there's this specific anecdote in the sources that illustrates how early this conditioning actually starts.
Oh, the 10 cents an hour story?
Yes. The author, Robert, as a 9-year-old boy, asks the rich dad to teach him about money. And the rich dad agrees, but he makes him work in one of his convenience stores dusting cans for just 10 cents an hour.
Which, even adjusted for the 1950s, that was an intentionally abysmal wage.
Absolutely abysmal. And predictably, the kid gets angry.
Well, yeah.
He's missing his Saturday baseball games, he's barely making anything, and he finally marches in to demand a raise.
Which is so funny because he sounds exactly like a modern adult employee demanding fair compensation for their time, right?
He really does.
Yeah.
But the rich dad's response is completely counterintuitive. Instead of giving him a raise, he takes away the 10 cents entirely.
Wow.
Yeah, he makes the boy work for free.
Man, that is harsh. But the underlying lesson there is about breaking the emotional dependency on the paycheck, isn't it?
Exactly. He wanted the boy to really feel the frustration of trading time for money, so he wouldn't spend his entire adulthood doing the exact same thing.
Right. The text uses that really powerful analogy of a donkey pulling a cart.
Oh, the carrot and the stick.
Yes, the donkey is constantly chasing a carrot dangling from a stick just in front of its nose. And the donkey's owner is getting exactly where he wants to go, but the donkey is just exhausting itself chasing an illusion. It's driven entirely by its appetite.
That's a perfect metaphor.
Okay, let's unpack this, though. Because, wait, people do need money to pay their bills.
Sure.
The fear of not having money isn't just some phantom emotional response, right? It's reality. I mean, if you don't pay your rent, you get evicted. If you don't buy food, you starve.
Very true.
So getting a job to secure a paycheck seems like the absolute most rational way to solve a very real problem.
Well, I mean, it's entirely rational in the short term. But the sources argue that a job is only a short-term solution to a long-term problem.
Because the bills are always going to keep coming.
Exactly. Getting a job to pay this month's bills just kicks the can down the road to next month. The rich dad's philosophy doesn't ask you to become an emotionless robot.
Right.
You cannot eliminate fear and desire. They are fundamental to the human experience. The objective here is to learn how to use your emotions to think rather than thinking with your emotions.
That distinction is so critical. When people let the fear of poverty do the thinking for them, they react defensively.
They do. They run out, get a safe job, and they just cling to it.
Yeah, they never stop to strategize or ask, wait, is working 40 hours a week for the next 40 years the most efficient way to permanently solve this fear?
No, they don't. They're trapped in a reactive state, which leads directly to the core structural flaw in their financial lives. Because if working harder at a secure job isn't the solution to escaping the rat race, we have to look at the foundation they're building upon.
And the sources point to the glaring blind spot in traditional education here, which is a complete lack of financial literacy.
Total blind spot.
The text uses the skyscraper analogy to explain it. Like, if you want to build the Empire State Building, the very first thing you do is dig a massive hole and pour a deep, really strong foundation.
You have to.
But smart, highly educated people often try to build an Empire State Building on a 6-inch concrete slab.
Right, because they possess academic intelligence, but they lack financial intelligence.
Exactly. So the minute they face real economic pressure, their entire structure just starts leaning.
And the crazy part is the foundation of financial literacy is actually quite simple. The listener likely already knows the textbook definitions, but the sources strip away all the confusing accounting jargon.
Thank goodness.
Yeah, they strip it down to establish the single most important rule to getting rich. You must know the difference between an asset and a liability.
Right.
And then you buy assets. An asset puts money in your pocket. A liability takes money out of your pocket.
I mean, it's literally fifth-grade math.
It is. Yet, the psychological blindness surrounding this simple concept is just staggering. Highly educated people look at their financial statements and genuinely believe they are building wealth.
But they aren't.
No.
Oh.
In reality, they're just accumulating more sophisticated liabilities. As their income goes up, they get the promotion, the advanced degree, the raise their expenses just rise proportionally.
The middle-class cash flow pattern is literally defined by buying liabilities that are culturally disguised as assets.
Exactly.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting, because this brings us to the most controversial point in the source material.
I know exactly what you're going to say.
The family home.
Yep, the house.
The highly educated poor dad proudly considered his house his greatest investment and his most valuable asset. But the rich dad looked at the exact same house and classified it as a liability.
And he was right to do so.
Well, if we apply the rule we just established, an asset puts money in your pocket, a liability takes it out. The mechanics of homeownership heavily support the rich dad's view.
They really do. When you break down the actual cash flow, a primary residence requires capital to flow outward every single month.
Right.
You have the mortgage payment, the property taxes, the insurance, and the inevitable ongoing maintenance. It's a constant drain on your cash flow.
The roof always needs fixing.
Always.
Yeah.
But beyond the visible expenses, the rich dad identified an even greater hidden cost, which is the opportunity cost.
Yes. All that capital tied up in a down payment, along with the monthly cash burn, is money that is effectively sidelined. It cannot be deployed to acquire actual income-producing assets.
Furthermore, it restricts your liquidity and your mobility.
Right.
It often prevents you from relocating for better opportunities because you're tied down to this mortgage.
So true.
The fundamental difference in strategy here is that the rich buy real assets first. They allocate their capital into investments that generate independent cash flow. Then, and only then, do they let the income generated by those assets pay for their luxuries. The asset column buys the big house or the new Porsche.
Wow. While the middle class attempts to buy the luxury first, paying for it with their own sweat, time, and future labor.
Exactly.
And once you grasp those mechanics of capital allocation, you start to realize why so many brilliant people remain trapped. They spend their entire lives minding someone else's business instead of their own. There's a super revealing anecdote in the text about Ray Kroc. You know, the man who turned McDonald's into a global juggernaut?
Oh, this is a classic story.
He was speaking to a group of MBA students at the University of Texas, and he asked them to identify what business he was in. Naturally, they all laughed and assumed he was in the hamburger business.
Right, I mean, it's McDonald's.
Exactly. But Kroc corrected them. He stated that his primary business wasn't hamburgers at all, it was real estate.
Yeah, he understood that while the operational focus was selling hamburger franchises, the underlying wealth generation actually came from the location of each franchise. He strategically bought up prime real estate at intersections all across the country. Ultimately, the franchisee who bought the operational rights was paying the mortgage on the land for Ray Kroc's organization.
That is genius.
He fundamentally understood the profound difference between his profession and his business.
And the sources really hammer this distinction home because it's where the highly educated often go totally astray.
Yeah.
Your profession is what you study and do to generate active income, right?
Yes.
You are a software engineer, a surgeon, a marketing manager, but your business is your asset column.
Exactly. And the poor dad, he believed deeply in specialization. He thought that to increase your income, you had to become this hyper-specialized expert in one specific need.
Get another degree, get another certification.
Right. But extreme specialization creates extreme vulnerability. It makes you entirely reliant on a single employer, an industry trend, or maybe a union that requires that specific narrow skill set. The rich dad advised the exact opposite. He said, know a little about a lot, He encouraged learning the broader systems, sales, marketing, accounting, communication, so you can oversee the entire operation rather than just functioning as a single cog inside of it.
Okay, but this requires some practical application for the modern listener. So wait, what does this all mean? Is the advice here that everyone needs to walk into the office tomorrow, quit their perfectly good jobs, and recklessly try to start a multinational company?
No, absolutely not. That is not the advice.
Good, because that sounds terrifying.
It would be. The mechanism they suggest is what we call off-hour capital allocation. The sources explicitly advise you to keep your daytime job. Be an exceptional, hardworking employee.
Okay.
But you must start minding your own business in your off hours by taking a portion of your earned income and converting it into portfolio income.
You transition from working for money to making your money work for you.
Exactly.
You start acquiring real assets in your spare time.
Yeah.
Index funds, income-generating real estate, bonds, maybe intellectual property. If you look at every single dollar as a potential employee, your goal is basically to hire as many of them as possible. You put them into your asset column, and the beauty of capital is that it works 24 hours a day. It never asks for a vacation, and it can continue compounding for generations.
That's the dream. But if the blueprint is this logical, keep your expenses low, buy assets, and compound your capital, we have to ask why more highly educated people don't just execute it.
Why are they still poor?
Right.
Yeah.
And the sources indicate that intellect alone isn't enough. You have to overcome severe psychological roadblocks.
And two of the most prominent ones mentioned are cynicism and the paralyzing fear of losing money.
Yes. Cynicism is particularly insidious among smart people because, well, it masquerades as intelligence.
Oh, that's so true.
Right. It's the chicken littles of the world who are always warning that the sky is falling. The text actually provides a great example regarding real estate.
Right.
Someone mentions the cash flow benefits of rental properties, and the cynic's immediate defensive response is, well, I don't want to fix toilets at 2 a.m.
I've heard people say that exact phrase so many times.
It's so common. They fixate on the absolute worst-case micro detail just to justify their inaction. Pointing out potential flaws makes them sound analytical and discerning, but it's actually just a shield.
Because they're scared.
Exactly. The rich dad noted that cynics criticize, while winners analyze.
I like that.
Yeah, and true analysis reveals that you don't actually have to fix the toilet yourself. The solution is simply factoring the cost of a good property manager into your financial model. The cynic just uses the toilet as an intellectual excuse to stay in their comfort zone.
Which is deeply tied to that second roadblock we mentioned, the fear of losing money. I mean, the education system trains us that making a mistake, getting an F on a test, is this permanent stain on our record. So highly educated people enter the real world absolutely terrified of making an error, especially a financial one. But the sources use a fantastic analogy to reframe this fear, which is the Texas mindset.
Oh, I love the Texas analogy. The rich dad observed that Texans embrace scale, both in victory and defeat.
Everything is bigger in Texas.
Exactly. When they win big. But when they lose, it is spectacular, and they don't hide from it. Look at the Alamo, right?
Right. Massive defeat.
A completely devastating military defeat. But instead of burying it in shame, they weaponized that failure. They used it as a rallying cry, remember the Alamo, to fight harder and eventually win their independence.
That's powerful. The wealthy view failure as iterative learning, while the middle class views it as a definitive, shameful end.
Right.
Most people play it so safe with their money because they're basically just trying not to lose instead of actually playing to win.
Yes. And this aversion to risk leads us to what I think is the most counterintuitive, radical mechanism in the entire text. The concept of paying yourself first.
Oh, this part is wild.
It really is where the psychology of wealth building gets fascinating. The poor dad's approach is to pay everyone else first. He pays the mortgage, the utility companies, the government taxes, and then, if there is a tiny fraction left over, he attempts to save it.
But human nature dictates that expenses rise to meet income, so there is rarely ever anything left.
Exactly. The rich dad, however, paid his asset column first, even when he was objectively short on cash.
Okay, wait. Pay yourself first, even when you don't have enough to pay the government or the bill collectors.
Yep, that's what he did.
That sounds like a recipe for getting sued. Like, how is that good advice? You risk late fees, damaged credit, or legal action. It sounds like a forced scarcity mechanism.
It is exactly that.
Yeah.
And he wasn't advocating for financial irresponsibility or just ignoring your obligations.
Oh, okay, good.
He was utilizing a high-stakes psychological trick. By paying his assets first, He intentionally engineered a massive amount of pressure from his creditors.
Ah,
He understood that the government and bill collectors are the absolute most aggressive entities in the financial ecosystem. If you pay them first and leave yourself with nothing, you feel no urgency. You just accept being broke until the next paycheck.
wow. But when you pay the asset column first, suddenly the bill collectors are knocking on your door. You've artificially created a crisis.
And that crisis acts as financial weightlifting.
Pressure makes diamonds.
Exactly. The pressure forces your financial genius to kick into high gear. The fear of those creditors motivates you to look outside your normal parameters, to hustle, to innovate, and to find creative ways to generate new streams of income just to cover the shortfall.
That is brilliant.
It is. You emerge financially stronger and more capable, whereas the person who dutifully pays their bills first simply shrinks their life to fit inside their limited salary. It's the difference between letting external pressures dictate your reality and harnessing that pressure to expand your capacity.
Which brings us entirely back to you, the listener. Understanding these mechanisms is so crucial because it reveals that wealth isn't just an accident of birth or pure luck.
No, it's not.
It's a series of deliberate psychological choices. With every single dollar that enters your hand, you hold the power to dictate your future. You can choose the path of the middle class, yielding to fear and desire, buying liabilities disguised as assets and staying on that treadmill. Or you can choose to reprogram your financial navigation system.
You can recognize the illusions of the rat race, invest in your financial literacy, and systematically acquire actual assets that will eventually buy back your time.
Exactly. The choice isn't made once a decade. It is made every single day with every dollar you allocate.
And as we wrap up this analysis, I want to leave you with a final thought to consider regarding everything we've discussed today.
Let's hear it.
We have focused heavily on the mechanics of buying tangible assets, stocks, real estate, businesses, to build a fortress of wealth. But consider this. What if the ultimate asset isn't something you can acquire with capital? What if the greatest asset you will ever possess is the very failure you are currently expending so much energy trying to avoid? If we reframe the Texas analogy, what if every financial loss, every miscalculation, and every stumble is not a setback, but simply the required tuition fee for the exact lesson you need to unlock your next level of financial intelligence?
Wow. That is a perspective that fundamentally changes how you view risk. Something to really chew on. Well, that's all for today's deep dive. Until next time.